Many people regard suicide as a mistake. Others view it as morally wrong. But irrespective of one's views regarding the rationality or morality of suicide, it seems to me that greater acceptance of it, both social and legal, is desirable. That's to say, even if we grant for the sake of argument that suicide is something that one ought not to engage in, I think we still nevertheless ought to be in favor of having safe and legal means of dying available. Because after all, a prohibition on assisted dying largely just drives the issue of suicide underground. In other words, people will and do still attempt to take their own lives. They just do so in ways that are usually dangerous and unreliable, and sometimes in ways that cause injury and even death to others. And thus, the issue here is similar to that of abortion in the sense that even one who strongly opposes abortion on, say, religious or ethical grounds might nonetheless think, and I think should think, that it is unethical to have a legal prohibition on abortion. And the reasons perhaps are obvious. Just as in the case of assisted dying, a legal ban on abortion does not necessarily prevent abortions, but often just compels women to have unsafe abortions. Furthermore, it can easily be argued that this culture we have of suicide prevention is responsible for much of what people find troubling about suicide. So, for example, one thing people are very reluctant to do, largely as a result of the existing stigma and legal complications surrounding suicide, is to talk openly about suicide. And not having this opportunity to talk openly about one's reasons for wanting to take one's own life and one's plans of suicide with friends and family has a cost. One being that this sort of interaction, if had, can provide emotional closure for both parties. And this, I think, would greatly mitigate, at least, the painful aftermath of suicide. Incidentally, I think the mere fact that suicide in the form of assisted dying is illegal just is what some people find troubling about it. And as misguided as it is, we know that people often automatically associate badness with the fact that something is illegal. And so I would expect that the mere legalization of assisted dying would remove some of the feeling people have that suicide is something that's morally objectionable. And ironically, in a way, this openness to suicide may even provide important opportunities for people to persuade others not to take their own life, something that just isn't possible, or at least not to the same extent, when we as a society force conversations about suicide into private corners. So I think whatever one is inclined to think about suicide in terms of, is it rational to take one's own life? Is suicide morally justified? However one is inclined to answer questions of this sort, it's possible to agree, I think, that legalizing assisted dying, promoting suicide acceptance, that these are generally good things.